Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth spreading. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. Today, we are going to delve into a book titled The Happiness Hypothesis, with the subtitle, Finding Modern Truth in Ancient Wisdom. How can we attain happiness? The author of this book is Jonathan Haidt, a pioneer in positive psychology and often referred to as one of the most important psychologists of the 21st century. This book is considered one of the most significant works in positive psychology in the last decade, and its subject, happiness, has been a topic of interest for people throughout history. But how can we achieve happiness? This question has sparked discussions throughout the ages, with no definitive answers. So, how does psychology approach this issue today? This is what we'll discuss today. We'll break it down into 3 parts. 1. Why are we not happy? 2. What are the methods for pursuing happiness? 3. How can we transcend our limitations and elevate our lives? Let's start with the first point, why are we not happy? The Roman poet Ovid once told a story in his masterpiece, Metamorphoses. In the story, the heroine was torn between her love for a suitor and her duty to her father, causing her great agony. She felt 2 opposing forces pulling her in different directions, much like the conflict we all face at times. For example, we've all felt the tug between diligently working and indulging in distractions like gaming or social media. We know which path is right, but we often choose the wrong one. This situation illustrates that our inner workings aren't as straightforward as we might think. In the past, we believed we had independent willpower and could freely control our actions. However, this book presents a different perspective. We may not have complete control over our actions. Our psyche is divided into various parts, each with its own ideas and, sometimes, conflicting opinions. Within us, there's an automated system that includes feelings, intuitions, emotions, and instinctive reactions. The author likens this part, responsible for automated responses, to an elephant. Another part of our inner self, like a rider atop the elephant, engages in rational thinking and makes rational demands. However, it cannot fully control the elephant's behavior. Our rational self often advises the elephant, but if the elephant wants to do something, the rider usually can't stop it. So, the rational self is more like an advisor to the elephant. Understanding that our inner elephant tends to dominate our behavior, we can answer the question posed at the beginning of this section, why are we not happy? It's because our emotions are primarily guided by the elephant, which is inherently pessimistic. For instance, finding $100 makes us happy, but losing that $100 causes us much more distress. Our elephant tends to magnify our suffering, making us feel that life is generally unsatisfactory. So, our brain has a tendency to seek out trouble. This feature, while sometimes frustrating, is evolutionary. If you had the ability to design the psyche of a fish, would you make its responses to opportunities and threats equally intense? Probably not. When facing threats, intense reactions are necessary for survival. If a fish didn't react strongly to danger, it might become prey. Hence, our brains evolved to have stronger reactions to negative information. Despite life's ups and downs, it may not be as unhappy as we often perceive it. As Shakespeare's Hamlet said, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. The reason for our unhappiness is often the result of our inner elephant's excessive and negative reactions. However, besides the elephant, there's also the rider. Though the rider is only an advisor, with skillful guidance, it is possible to find more paths to happiness in life. So, what should the rider do? This leads us to the second topic we want to discuss, the scientific methods of pursuing happiness. If you were an ordinary working-class person, making only $10,000 a year, and suddenly you won $2 million in a lottery overnight, you bought a new house, got a new car, quit your boring job, and your lifestyle is now significantly better than before. I ask you, a few months later, how much happier do you think you are compared to the past? 10 times? 50 times? 100 times? In reality, the most likely outcome is that your current level of happiness isn't much higher than before. Why is this? It sounds unbelievable, but it's true. You often see characters in TV shows who've struggled all their lives, achieved immense wealth, and then claim they're as poor as ever. This might seem like showing off, but it reflects a scientific truth: better material conditions don't necessarily bring more happiness. Money and power don't always buy happiness, something both Christians and Buddhists understand. In the Old Testament, there's a story about a Jerusalem king who conducted an experiment to find happiness. He accumulated great wealth, built beautiful houses, married several beautiful women, created splendid gardens, and tried everything he could think of to make himself happy. But was he happy? His answer was, I found that everything I did was meaningless, like chasing the wind. Pursuing external possessions didn't bring him joy. A similar story happened to Buddha, who was an Indian prince with endless wealth and the highest status. Yet, he felt unsatisfied. Buddha also discovered that money and status couldn't buy happiness. Why is that? It's related to the way our inner elephant operates. Our inner elephant follows a principle called the adaptation principle. We judge our feelings based on whether our current situation is better or worse than what we've grown accustomed to, not compared to our past conditions. This principle is a characteristic of neurons. New stimuli trigger strong responses from them. However, with time, these neurons adapt to the stimuli, and our responses diminish. When you win the lottery, it's a strong stimulus, making you feel happy. But after a while, you adapt to your new life, and your happiness doesn't significantly increase. Understanding this adaptation principle, you'll see why you might feel extremely happy when you move into a big house or buy nice clothes but, after a while, feel that life is boring and want even larger houses and fancier clothes to regain that initial feeling. So, how do we find happiness? Buddha's answer is to let go of external possessions and search within. Modern science has shown that, in most cases, money and status don't significantly increase our happiness because they're subject to the adaptation principle. However, modern science has also discovered that a few external possessions can bring sustained happiness. The most important of these are good interpersonal relationships and wholehearted engagement in a passion. Good interpersonal relationships are one of the few external things worth pursuing in life. They make you feel happier and more joyful, and a happy person has better relationships. You can adapt to living in a small house, but you can't adapt to a troubled relationship with a partner or roommate. So, cherish your relationships. Additionally, wholeheartedly pursuing your passion can bring sustained happiness. The elephant feels happiness when it makes progress. As you work toward a goal, achieving small milestones along the way brings happiness, sometimes even more happiness than reaching the final goal. This is because your brain releases dopamine, a happiness-inducing chemical, when you do something right. However, this satisfaction only lasts for a few seconds, and we typically experience this happiness for a very short time. On the other hand, when you're making progress, achieving small successes along the way provides a sense of happiness and satisfaction. When you're about to reach the final goal or actually reach it, you might not feel overwhelmingly happy. Instead, you may just feel relieved, thinking, finally, it's done. So, if you want to find happiness, don't focus on external goals like money and status, instead, do what you genuinely love. This way, you're more likely to enter a state of flow, where you lose track of time and wholeheartedly dedicate yourself to something. It's in this state that you're more likely to grasp the true essence of life. In summary, while most external possessions aren't worth pursuing, good relationships and pursuing your passion with dedication can bring sustained happiness. Alright, if we're just talking about happiness, it seems like we've come to the end of that topic. However, the author has one more part: how to further magnify the value of happiness beyond happiness itself. This brings us to our third part, the biochemistry of life that goes beyond self-limitation. Happiness is wonderful, but there are different levels of happiness. In all human cultures, the way people influence their inner feelings within a group can often be divided into two dimensions. One is the horizontal dimension, which reflects the degree of intimacy and liking between individuals. The other is the vertical dimension, which reflects our social status or class. For example, we use you to address someone we know well and you to address someone unfamiliar. When we encounter someone of higher status, we often use their titles. When meeting someone of lower status or someone we know very well, we call them by their names or nicknames. The degree of intimacy in interpersonal relationships and the norms of social hierarchy can affect our inner feelings. However, the author says that beyond these two dimensions, there is a third dimension that is often overlooked, a spiritual dimension, which the author calls the dimension of the divine morality. This concept of divinity doesn't necessarily imply the existence of God, but rather that, with or without God, we can feel a sense of sacred awe and self-improvement within ourselves. This sense of elevation can fill our hearts with happiness. So, what does this sense of elevation feel like? The author quotes a passage from Thomas Jefferson, one of America's founding fathers, to describe it. He says, "When we see someone doing good or repaying kindness, these perfect moral sentiments not only deeply touch our hearts but also create a gradual sense of improvement. When we see heroic figures showing loyalty and generosity, our hearts tremble, and we feel shaken." This unique inner feeling is what the author refers to as the sense of elevation. It not only makes us feel happy but can also instill a sense of awe in us. So, how can we experience this sense of elevation? Philosopher Immanuel Kant offered two answers to this question. Kant once said that two things truly inspired reverence in him: the starry sky above and the moral law within. Experiencing nature and embracing noble morals are two essential ways to achieve the sense of elevation. Regarding experiencing nature and the sense of elevation, the famous writer Emerson once wrote that when he stood on a vast plain, he felt he had disappeared. He became a transparent eye and saw everything. His heart was entirely occupied by the immortal, infinite beauty of the scene. Similarly, a friend told me that when he first went to Iceland in Europe and witnessed the fantastic sights under the northern lights, he was profoundly moved. He developed a deep sense of awe for nature and gained a whole new understanding of life. This sense of happiness can be unforgettable and may influence our entire lives. Therefore, if we want to experience the elevation that nature brings us, uplift our spirits, and live a happier life, we can consider spending our resources to explore the wonders of nature. For instance, exploring the mysteries of the Brazilian rainforest or standing in front of the magnificent Niagara Falls, these experiences could have a profound and lasting impact on our happiness. Additionally, cultivating or merely witnessing noble actions can also bring us the sense of elevation. When we see a gentleman risking their own safety to rescue others from a flood, we may become emotional, and our hearts fill with a sense of elevation. All these experiences transcend our self-centered feelings and allow us to experience a new, higher-level sense of elevation. However, besides experiencing nature and noble morality, the author suggests that there's a third way to experience this sense of elevation, and that's by joining a group to do something beyond self-interest. Many movie stars, for example, make films for money or fame, and they are often perceived as just celebrities. But in India, the renowned actor Amir Khan invests himself in causes that go beyond personal gain. He uses his platform to advocate for women's rights and the impoverished, actively impacting society. As a result, he is not just a star in India, he's considered a national treasure. So, how can ordinary people like us get involved in pursuits that transcend self-interest and contribute to something greater? The answer lies in having a mindset of treating others as oneself in our lives. This means that, when making choices and taking actions in life, we should consider not only our own interests but also the interests of others. This is the most fundamental and essential way to go beyond self-interest. When we move beyond ourselves and join a larger group in the pursuit of altruistic goals, we are more likely to feel this sacred sense of elevation and, consequently, experience more enduring happiness. Alright, the above covers the main content of this book. Let's recap the entire book. First, why aren't we happy? The answer is that there are various conflicts within our minds, and the dominant elephant has a natural predisposition to unhappiness. Second, how can we scientifically pursue happiness? Money and status, which constitute the majority of external factors, often don't bring us happiness. However, fostering good relationships and engaging in work we are passionate about can provide us with sustained happiness. Third, we can go beyond our self-limitations and find a greater sense of elevation and happiness beyond personal interests by experiencing nature, embracing noble morality, and participating in altruistic endeavors with a group. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker Channel audiobook channel. Like and share it with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth sharing, paving the way for a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.